I had a bit of a scout round and I've come to this spot here. Now, I don't know if you can see on this camera because it may not be as clear, but just on the edge of those reeds there, when I looked for, when I first came here, there were bubbles coming up, and more bubbles just came up. There's this sort of a continual succession of bubbles coming up there. So I've catapulted out some maggots in that area, and we'll see what happens. I may be just being over optimistic, but I've got to try these things. Struggling a bit really. I'll leave maggots on the hook. Yeah, there's some more bubbles coming up. Hope it's nothing big, because on this rod I won't get it in if it is. Right on top of the bubbles. Well, a bit of a gamble today, and I'm not sure it's going to pay off. I checked the river levels, and I've been watching the Facebook page for the Offord and Buckton waters, and basically it's showing the level back to almost normal, but it's not quite. I don't think it's a bit up. And they did warn on the Facebook page there was a bit of flow, but I thought if I came to the top stream, which is like a cut that goes from the lock to a weir pool, it may be a bit more docile, or it is certainly a bit more docile than the main river, which is thundering down, but it's pretty heavy and it's pretty coloured. Now, a couple of years ago in autumn I caught some really lovely perch from here, the best one just under £2, so I thought I could come back and see if I could do a reprise, as they say. But subsequent to that catch, I've fished this top stream a couple of times and not done very well at all. So I'm not actually sure what's going to happen today, because the conditions are pretty dodgy. I'm going to have to be very careful on the bank. It's very slippery, and yeah, it's all right, someone's just walking past. Hi. Yeah, I'm going to have to be pretty careful. I've got a very light rod, and light ledger, light quiver tip, and I've only brought maggots and worms, so the target really is perch today, but I'm not sure. I think I've made a gamble here which may not come off, but we can only see what happens. So let's get going, as they say. Right, so here we are. As you can see, the water's very coloured, but I've caught perch before down this margin, and it's looking a little bit easier down the margin. There's a weir about 20 yards down there where this top stream flows out into what's called the car park bay, so that's what's generating the flow really. I was hoping it would be a bit better than this, a little less heavy, if you can say. I've got a fairly light ledger on, so I'm not sure how that's going to work, but what I'll do is I'll put a worm out just to see what happens. I've got this is a Shimano rod. I bought it a couple of years ago. It's a very light rod, as it say here, 9 feet, so it's quite a short rod, and it's got a very sensitive quiver on it, so it's quite good for perch, assuming that if I'm lucky enough to get any. But yeah, I think I may have made a gamble too far today, because it's looking pretty hostile. The forecast for the weather was good. Let's put a maggot on as well, just to keep that worm on, hopefully. Let's see what happens. Got to be very careful here. It's very, very slippery. This was all underwater, of course, a week ago. I was trying really whether to go to a lake or try and come on the rivers, having seen that the levels were sort of coming down, but I think the lake might have been a better bet, but we'll see. Let's see what happens. get nearer to the margin. And I know there's a lot of weed down there from earlier visits, so that's the other problem. Get nearer the edge, and perhaps if the fish are around, they're taking shelter. If nothing happens here for an hour or two, there's some slacks down in the car park pool, sort of areas that would normally almost be out of the water, and perhaps pop down there and try down there, because I'm not sure this is going to work here somehow. Yeah, there's a lot of weed down there. I'm caught in it already. Oh dear, I think we may be losing our tackle. Well, I pulled out, but it's not looking good, is it? I may go and have a scout around, and I think I may have opened that hook a bit. We need to change the hook. Yeah, I think I'll go and have a little scout around, see if I can find some slacks, because I'm not sure this is going to work here. It's too heavy. Well, I decided to move. One, I didn't think I was going to do very well on that top stream, the way it was flowing. But more importantly, the ground there was very slippery, and as my shoes started to clog up with mud, I was slipping all over the place, and sitting a couple of feet from about 9 or 10 foot of floodwater didn't really appeal to me. So I decided, basically on the grounds of safety really, that I ought to move. So I came down to this car park pool, as they call it, and I sort of scouted around, and there were 2 or 3 spots where there were slacks. I was a bit undecided which one to go for, but I finally plumbed for a spot, and I've just sort of catapulted out some maggots into the slack, but I just don't know really. I think this is going to be challenging. There's a couple of other guys turned up. I noticed one's just walked up towards the top stream, which is interesting. But looking at the rod he had, I'm not sure what he was after really. I'm not sure the pike could be feeding in these coloured conditions, but anyway. We'll see how this goes, and hopefully it's a little bit safer than the other place, even if the fish aren't here. Right, let's go. Well, here I am in my new spot. I've catapulted some maggots out into that sort of slack area, not too far out actually. I had to change my hook because I opened out a bit on the snag on the last swim, so I'll just put a new hook on. I've just thrown some maggots out there, so perhaps I'll just put a few maggots on the hook to start with and then try a worm. But yeah, I think the rivers today are going to be very, very challenging. To be honest, I didn't really expect quite as much water as this. Looking at the Environment Agency site in terms of the levels, but there we go, we are where we are. It's fortunate I've got this 9-foot rod because I'm under a tree here, so stand up to do this. Get a bit more height when I cast. That's it, it's a bit further than I've been putting the maggots, but I'll come back a bit. I'm snagged already. This is the trouble, you don't really know what's out there, do you? I would say in normal times that may be a weed bed. It's really difficult to know. I'll give it half hour, perhaps an hour here, and if nothing happens, perhaps try and find another slack somewhere. Just hope I drop onto something, but I'm not too confident today that I'm going to succeed. The opposite bank there is an island, but I couldn't get on there because the footpath was underwater. There's some slack swims over there, but unfortunately I haven't got wellies on and the path was underwater, so that wasn't an option. But there's an awful lot of water coming down still. I'm getting some taps, folks. It's promising, but they're only taps. Not sure I can hook. Not sure I can hook them on that. But that's encouraging. There's something down there. Well, it had a go and went away again, but at least there's life down there, folks. Perhaps put a worm on, see what happens with a worm. Something bolder, perhaps. Well, I've still only had the grand total of one bite, and that wasn't much of a bite. Yeah. Let's have a little walk around, getting a bit cold sitting still anyway, so it may not really do me any harm to have a bit of a stroll. Yeah, I'm in the weed again. It's the trouble, every time I bring in weed. I had a bit of a scout round and I've come to this spot here. Now, I don't know if you can see on this camera because it may not be as clear, but just on the edge of those reeds there, when I looked for, when I first came here, there were bubbles coming up, and more bubbles just came up. It's this sort of a continual succession of bubbles coming up there, so I've catapulted out some maggots in that area, and we'll see what happens. I may be just being over optimistic, but I've got to try these things. Struggling a bit, really. I'll leave maggots on the hook. Yeah, there's some more bubbles coming up. Hope it's nothing big, because on this rod I won't get it in if it is. Right on top of the bubbles. Again, I don't know what's down there in the way of bottom weed and what have you. After a fairly easy session on the clay pit pond last week, this sort of brings you back to reality, river fishing. In a small pond, you know exactly where the fish are. In a river, you just haven't got a clue. Yeah, that's definitely a bite. Trouble is a bit like the one I had earlier, it's just a few taps almost if they're just pulling the maggots off. God, still knocking at it. It's either that or a lot of little small fish, each one coming along having a little nibble. Oh well. Oh yeah, got one. Let's see what we've got. Well, no wonder it was only giving me small taps. Look at the size of that. Ah, Jesus God. Where's the hook? Get all these maggots out of the way. Can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Well, just in case this is the only fish we catch today, I'll give you a good look at it. Ah, dear, dear, dear. I just missed a good pull on worm on the last cast. That's the first bite I've had on worm. So, fingers crossed, things might be starting to happen. I've catapulted a few more maggots out into the area. Problem is, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't look like there's much flow where I'm fishing, but it's difficult to tell. So I'm not actually quite sure where the maggots are landing. There were also some more bubbles came up, so whether that's fish or not, who knows, but fingers crossed we might get something. But it could have been a perch, the bite I had on worm. It was quick, it's very fast and let go very quickly. So it might have been a perch, I don't know. Yeah, it just went slack the line then. Yeah, I think something's having a go at it. Come on, take it properly. Give me a fighting chance. Well, at least we're getting some interest. A little bit of warmth in that sun now, it's quite pleasant. Come on, take it. Bang, bang, bang. Not sure they are perch. Maybe roach again on a worm. It might be really quite tricky to open. Oh yeah, it's on, whatever it is. It's certainly a bit bigger than we had before. Oh, it came off. So we'll never know what it was. It could have been a pope actually, or a ruff, whatever you like to call it. The colouring looked like that, which would sort of be sort of appropriate for worms. I know they all rough like worms, a bit like perch. And I have caught them here before, I think, up on the top stream. I say them, I've caught one at least. The trouble with this spot here is very clear close to the railway, which you can probably hear. I'm also very close to the road, which you may also be able to hear from time to time. Oh, a big fat worm. Let's see. We can, what are you doing, worm? You're confusing me here. God, get out of the way. I'm trying to get a maggot on to keep them on. Right, got what's left of the old worm plus a new worm. That's a couple of maggots to try and keep the worms on. So that's like a mouthful, so we'll see what happens, shall we? On the edge of the reeds there, I'll probably just get snagged up. Keep getting caught up in the, let the line drop and it goes in those reeds down there. Let's try again. Right, we've hooked something decent. We've hooked something decent, folks. Right by the edge of the reeds. I think it is a bream. A little short rod is not the best for this swim, is it? Got no reach on it. Right, we got him. He's not happy, but we've got him. Well, I thought there were bream out there with all those bubbles coming up. Right. So, those bubbles did mean something. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, better than the little roach, certainly. Let's turn away from the sun because otherwise it's just blinding, isn't it? Yeah, that's all right. Happy with that. Yeah, you stay in there. Let's pull you back. It'll take a little time to recover. There you go. Just missed a cracking bite on worm. I was eating a chocolate bar. Anyway, we're getting bites. It's the same, isn't it, when you start eating a fish bite. Anyway, he didn't feel the hook, so let's hope he's still around. Well, I'm regretting missing that bite even more now because I'm not getting any more. Oh dear, oh dear. How disappointing. Perhaps the bream have moved. They were certainly here when I arrived, all those bubbles. I thought they were fish bubbles, and they obviously were, but I haven't seen them for a while now. It's getting a bit chilly again, the sun's gone in and it's clouded over. It's quite nice with that sun out, there's just enough warmth in it to take the chill off. No. Nothing happening. Perhaps I'll cast out a bit further. Fishing down by those reeds where I got the last bream, but let's go out a little bit further. It's difficult to know where the maggots settled, that's the trouble. It doesn't look like there's any flow just there, on the surface at least. Let's try a bunch of maggots next time. Yeah, perhaps after this cast I'll put a few more maggots in and I'll try a bunch of maggots. perhaps catching one of the shoals spooked them. I don't know. Don't fish for bream very much, so I don't pretend to understand their habits. I have not had a touch for ages. I think I'm going to pack up soon. It's starting to get quite cold, and what I may do is put a worm out, or a couple of worms out, a big bait, just as a final throw of the dice, and if nothing arrives, nothing arrives. I'm not getting a touch on maggots, so I'm not sure if worms will make any difference, but maybe something will take a fancy to them, and get one more fish. But if not, I'll give it, say, one more cast with worm and see what happens. Would you believe it? I said I've had no more bites. Well, this thing didn't bite. It couldn't bite, could it? It's too small to move a quiver tip. And in fact, let's face it, there's about 6 maggots there and a 12 hook. And this little dace, I think it's a dace, so small I can't, yeah, it's a dace. This little dace has managed to get it in its mouth. It was in the process of eating them. Didn't give me a bite at all. No indication whatsoever. Right, let's put you back before you fall on the floor. Unbelievable. Look at that bunch of maggots it took. And a 12 hook. Unbelievable. Right, we'll put a worm out there, or a couple of worms out there, see if something better comes along. And that'll be our last throw of the dice, as I say. Well, no action so far. Couple of worms out there. And the wind's kicking up a bit rough now as well. Yeah, I think when I first looked at this spot, there were clear bubbles coming up by the reeds out there, and I'm convinced now that they were bream, and there was probably some bream out there. Obviously I managed to catch one, and I think the second bite was almost certainly a bream, which I missed, which I'm really kicking myself for now. Yeah, that was probably going to be the only other opportunity I had to get a decent fish, but there we go, that's fishing. I've got about another 10 minutes to go until my 2:30 deadline, so obviously if I catch a fish you'll see it, but if I don't, the next thing you will probably see is me just saying cheery bye. Well, I thought it would be challenging today, and so it turned out. A bit more water in the river than I expected. It probably is at a fairly normal winter level, but very coloured, coming down a bit, and not ideal for perch, I don't think. The top stream turned out to be really too dangerous. I was slipping around, and it was getting worse and worse. The more I slipped in the mud, the more slippery it seemed to get, and I decided probably too dangerous, so I came over here to the car park pool, and the second swim, first swim, a couple of taps, nothing really, but in the second swim, in the end I managed to get a bream, and I missed a bite which I convinced was another bream, which was really annoying. I've got a wasp that's taken a fancy to me, so yeah, anyway. Right, so yeah, I won't dwell then, as the wasp is buzzing around my head. So that's it for today, and thanks for watching as usual. Another challenging river visit. I don't know why it bothers sometimes, but here we go. Yeah, so thanks, and thanks to the subscribers. I've had a few more in the last week, which is nice. And until the next time I go out, and I don't know what that will be, whether it will be a lake or chance a river again, I really don't know. But until then, it's bye for now, and cheers.